Picture yourself in a dusty garage at dawn. The air smells like old metal and possibility. In front of you sits a motorcycle that hasn't run in 30 years. Most people would see junk, but some people see something else entirely. They see a project that will consume their evenings and weekends for the next year. They see a challenge that makes their heart beat faster. And here's the fascinating part. They can't wait to start. There's something deeply human happening in garages and workshops around the world. People are taking apart machines that time forgot, cleaning every component by hand, and bringing them back to life. But this isn't really about motorcycles at all. It's about what happens inside the human mind when we find something worth fixing. The modern world moves at a relentless pace. We swipe through hundreds of images before breakfast. We attend meetings where nothing feels concrete. We send emails into the void and hope something meaningful comes back. Everything feels temporary, digital, and somehow unreal. Then someone discovers an old motorcycle rusting in a barn, and suddenly everything changes. When you hold a carburetor in your hands, covered in decades of grime, something primal awakens. This object is real. It has weight and texture. It existed before smartphones, before the internet, before the world became this fast. And unlike the intangible tasks that fill our days, this carburetor will either work or it won't. There's no gray area. No corporate jargon can hide poor craftsmanship. The engine either starts or it doesn't. Psychologists have studied this need for tangible results, and what they found is remarkable. Our brains are wired to seek what researchers call competence and mastery. We need to feel capable. We need to see the direct results of our efforts. In restoration work, every bolt removed represents progress you can measure. Every surface polished reflects literal and figurative clarity. The feedback is immediate and honest. Think about your last week at work. How many tasks did you complete where you could actually see the finished result? How many projects gave you that deep satisfaction of holding something real in your hands and knowing you created it? For most people in modern economies, the answer is close to zero. We push papers, move data, attend meetings about meetings. The work never feels truly done. Now, imagine spending a Saturday afternoon rebuilding a motorcycle engine. You start with a greasy block of metal that looks beyond hope. 6 hours later, you've cleaned every part, replaced worn components, and reassembled the whole thing with your own hands. You can touch it, you can see it, you know exactly what you accomplished. This is what psychologists call a completed stress cycle, and it's incredibly rare in contemporary life. But there's something even deeper happening here. When someone chooses to restore a 1970s motorcycle instead of buying a new one, they're making a statement about values. They're rejecting disposable culture. They're saying that some things deserve to be saved, that craftsmanship matters, that the old ways had merit. In a world designed to make us replace rather than repair, restoration becomes an act of quiet rebellion. The choice of which motorcycle to restore often reveals something personal. Maybe it's the same model a father once rode. Maybe it's the bike that represented freedom in old movies watched during childhood. These machines become vessels for memory and emotion. Restoring them isn't just mechanical work, it's a conversation with the past, a way to preserve something that mattered when the world was different. There's genuine comfort in working with technology you can understand completely. Open the engine of a vintage motorcycle and you can see how everything works. Every part has a clear purpose. Cause and effect are visible. Compare this to modern machines, sealed and computerized, where even trained mechanics need diagnostic software to understand what's happening. That older simplicity offers something profound, a sense of control. Control might be the hidden key to understanding this entire phenomenon. Research in psychology consistently shows that perceived control over our environment dramatically affects mental health and happiness. When life feels chaotic and unpredictable, we seek domains where we can exercise genuine autonomy. A restoration project provides exactly that. You decide the timeline. You choose which parts to replace or restore. You determine the final vision. Nobody can take that control away. The methodical nature of restoration also creates a meditative state that many describe as therapeutic. Disassembling an engine requires focus. You must pay attention to how parts fit together, remember sequences, notice small details. This focused attention quiets the anxious mind. For those hours in the garage, worries about tomorrow fade away. There's only this bolt, this part, this next step. It's mindfulness without the marketing. Community plays a bigger role than outsiders might expect. Restorers find each other online, and it shows, forming networks built on shared passion. These communities offer something rare, judgment-free spaces where people connect over skill and dedication rather than status or wealth. A retired teacher and a corporate executive bond over carburetor tuning techniques. The motorcycle doesn't care about their job titles. Within these communities, knowledge passes between generations. An older restorer might spend an afternoon teaching someone younger the proper way to gap spark plugs or set valve timing. This mentorship recreates traditional craft relationships that modern work culture has largely destroyed. There's dignity in that transfer of skill, a sense of preserving knowledge that might otherwise vanish. The transformation itself carries psychological weight. Taking something broken and making it whole again is fundamentally optimistic. It's proof that damage isn't permanent, that deterioration can be reversed, that care and effort matter. When someone fires up an engine that hasn't run in decades, they're not just starting a motorcycle. They're demonstrating that resurrection is possible. This resonates especially with people navigating personal challenges. The metaphor is almost too obvious, but that doesn't make it less powerful. If this rusted heap can become beautiful and functional again, what else might be possible? The garage becomes a laboratory for hope, where evidence accumulates that broken things can be fixed. There's also something about preserving history that satisfies a deep human need. These motorcycles represent specific moments in industrial and cultural development. Each model tells stories about the era that produced it. By restoring them, people become amateur historians, keeping alive not just machines, but entire chapters of human achievement. In our disposable culture, this preservation work feels important, even noble. The financial aspect rarely makes logical sense, which is actually revealing. Restorers typically spend far more on parts and labor than the finished motorcycle is worth. They know this. They do it anyway. This tells us the value isn't economic. It's emotional, psychological even. The process itself is the point, not the product. Time spent in the garage offers escape from the performance demands of daily life. Nobody's measuring productivity. There are no quarterly reviews for how efficiently you polish engine fins. The work proceeds at whatever pace feels right. In a culture obsessed with optimization and efficiency, this unmonitored time becomes precious. It's one of the few spaces where you can simply be, working at human speed on human terms. The sensory experience matters too. The smell of old metal and fresh oil, the feeling of parts clicking perfectly into place, the sound of an engine catching on the first kick after months of work. These physical sensations ground us in our bodies and the present moment. They provide relief from the abstract, screen-based existence that dominates modern life. Ultimately, people who restore old motorcycles aren't just fixing machines. They're creating meaning in a world that often feels meaningless. They're building competence in an age of specialization that makes us feel helpless. They're preserving beauty and craftsmanship in a disposable culture. They're finding community in an increasingly isolated society. They're taking control of at least one small corner of existence. The next time you see someone working on a vintage motorcycle, look beyond the surface. You're watching someone engage in one of the most psychologically nourishing activities available. They've found a pursuit that satisfies multiple human needs simultaneously. And maybe, just maybe, they've discovered something the rest of us are still searching for: work that feels real, challenges that feel surmountable, and proof that broken things can be made whole again.